Hi everyone, welcome at Wavect. Today with Emma Ockelford, who is the founder of Meta Outcomes. And today we're going to talk about how crypto will actually change the social impact landscape. Thank you, Emma, for being here. Really looking forward to our discussion today. And yeah, please feel free to start with a little bit about yourself. Like, what are you passionate about? What does your everyday look like? And yeah, what is Meta Outcomes?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Kevin. It's really good to join you today. I'm Emma. I kind of work with public sector organisations. That's kind of day to day what I do. I've actually been kind of working in or with public sector organisations for over 10 years. So right at the start of my career, I kind of had a role working for a local authority. And I guess I've kind of changed and adapted that as I've kind of moved on in my career. But kind of a lot of the work I do now is with local authorities, with the NHS, schools, private care providers, all kind of really focused on how they can improve the outcomes of the people they're supporting. And that obviously looks quite different depending on sort of who I'm working with. I've been doing that kind of for the last 10 years. And I think excitingly kind of now shifting that into that Web3 space. So is it helpful to kind of cover how I got into the space a little bit, maybe?
Sure.
Yeah, so I was sort of thinking back end of last year, there was kind of a real bubble around, well, I guess crypto I'd heard of for a long time, but NFTs particularly at the back end of last year, there was that real kind of interest in them. And I think it caught my attention. So first, just from a what is this perspective, and so started to do a bit of research, Twitter scrolling for a long time, and then kind of joining Discords and things. And then I think I quite quickly could see there was maybe more to it than I'd originally thought. So then kind of actually like getting much more stuck in to NFT projects, like actually chatting in communities. And now kind of shifting to think about how I can bring that work I'm doing with the public sector and all of that really exciting, interesting stuff going on in kind of Web3 NFT space and kind of bring those together. So that's quite early days still, but I think as you mentioned at the start, I've kind of launched a business, Meta Outcomes, to kind of really help bring those things together. So I see kind of two sides to what I do now, really, and one will be that consultancy work. So actually really working with organizations to think about how they can improve outcomes for people, like I'm kind of doing now, but really using that kind of Web3 technology. So whether that be NFTs, whether it be kind of blockchain technology, whether it be metaverse technology, and kind of really thinking about where's the space for that in everything we do and how's that going to help us improve things for the people we're working with. And then also kind of thought leadership stuff. So I'm chatting to some great people like you, and then thinking about recording a podcast myself with one of my colleagues from LinkedIn. So we both kind of, he's in the healthcare space, and he can really see the opportunity for kind of this in sort of public services in the UK. So I think going to do a bit more diving in there. And then also had the opportunity to speak at a conference on a panel and stuff.
Congrats.
So kind of really, thank you. It's quite exciting, really, to do that.
Yeah.
So kind of building both sides of that. So that's me and what I'm up to.
Awesome, super interesting. Because you spoke about NFTs and improving people's outcomes or lives, basically. I would be curious from a personal standpoint right now. How could that look like? Do you have some examples from your projects? Maybe because maybe that triggers some people's imagination, to act as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was thinking about that just before we came on, actually. I think in sort of inspiring people to think about where else there might be opportunity is really exciting. So hopefully some of these examples will do that. So yeah, I think that social impact side of things is really thinking about, I guess, where there can be a positive difference made to society, and it could be to people, it could be to the planet. And yeah, I guess kind of really therefore think about how do NFT projects contribute towards this. And I think there can be loads of potential there. So I think one, as kind of just a purely a funding source, I think, you know, the amount of money that we kind of could generate through NFTs would be absolutely huge. And maybe we'll come on to that in a little bit, but I think, you know, purely from a financial perspective, there's real opportunity there. And there's a lot of kind of donations to charitable organisations happening and that sort of stuff. So I think there's kind of that side. I also think in terms of kind of the community aspect of projects. So you'll often have hundreds, if not thousands of people kind of coming together around a common goal. And I think really using that to accelerate kind of where you want to get to. I think even just asking within the community, like, who's got these skills, who knows about this thing, and kind of getting the community behind, you know, behind and actively involved in achieving that goal. I think they're the kind of real key things. And it's interesting you said, do I have any examples? Because I was having a look back at my Twitter, and not long ago, I'd actually done a bit of a call out asking for people's great examples of social impact projects. And so I thought I'd just share a few of them that came back today. So there's a project called Not Your Bro NFT. I don't know whether you've heard of it, but it's really geared up for kind of trying to ensure women are represented within kind of Web3 and blockchain space. So they are kind of trying to actively onboard more women into the space, support them to help one another, but they were also using kind of royalties from their mint to give kind of donations to women sort of focused charities. So that they kind of include both of those sides that I was talking about. There's some other great projects actually that are much more focused on like the planets. There's a project called Nemus that's focused on the Amazon rainforest. And they're kind of trying to use kind of cryptocurrency in a much more kind of regenerative way, I guess. And so their community members are, connecting through what they're doing to regenerate the Amazon rainforest. And there's another project called Woodies, I think, that made like a huge donation that was going to plant 1 million trees, something like that. And then a project that I've spoken about a few times as well is called 400 Drums. It's maybe kind of smaller than some of the other projects that we think about, but they are working with very kind of local indigenous populations to kind of try and upskill them digitally. So they're kind of using all of their local indigenous art, turning that into kind of an NFT that people can mint, and then using those funds to actually go on and upskill the community, kind of giving it full circle back to the community. So I think there's like so many great examples like that. Ages.
Yeah, love this. That's actually what makes part of the Web3 movement, right? Because you are basically not limited in terms of creativity. You can do so many different things. And yeah, there's, you know, the public saying, the sky is the limit. And I think in some rare occasions, it might be suitable, maybe just like in that case. Speaking of sayings and quotes right now, there is also a very well-known quote from Vitalik Buterin. I've read it in your blog. That's why I grabbed it here. I want to bring it on. And it's called, "I don't hate apes. I just want them to fund public goods." So since we are here in this podcast very socially oriented, or environment or whatever is part of that movement, basically, I would be curious on your thoughts about this quote and about NFTs in Web3 in general.
Yeah, so I fully agree with that quote. I think when I read it, I had a massive grin on my face, because I think that's kind of exactly what I was thinking when I came into the space. So we see a lot of people spending a lot of money on pictures of apes. which is brilliant and great if that's what we want to do, but kind of can we do something really good with the money that comes off the back of it? And that's kind of exactly what I'm thinking. So I was looking at some stats, and we're obviously not in that place right now, being in more of a bearish market, but in January 22, they were saying that we were ranging between 10 and $20 million worth of spend on NFTs each week. So you think if it's kind of that volume of money being passed around the system, actually there's real potential there for that to make a huge difference. And actually, kind of a lot of public service, particularly in the UK and elsewhere, is delivered by kind of voluntary charity sector organisations, you know, very kind of community level grassroots organisations. And so a small amount of money can also go a long way into kind of delivering those sorts of services. So that for me, I think, is absolutely the key. You know, we've got all this money, brilliant, but can we do something really good off the back of that?
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for that explanation. I also agree with that. In general, I think we're in a highly inefficient market, right? Everything is like highly volatile, and basically always when markets are such in an inefficient state where many people make lots of money and many people lose a lot of money, you always have a lot of winners and losers. And yeah, in a perfect world, I 100% agree, people should actually use that money, right? Generate from all that hype and to do something good. It's a little bit sad. I 100% agree, but I guess that's part of, I think capitalism, for better or worse somehow. But yeah, let's hope maybe in 10 years some things change, or 5 years or 2 years, I don't know. And yeah, would love to see that. We have now spoken about how NFTs or crypto in general could be utilized to actually fund or support the public good, right? One question that might arise, especially from so-called no-coiners, people that aren't directly in the space right now, why or what are the advantages when actually doing that, all that charity processes on chain? What are the advantages here? Why not just what are the Web2 equivalents? GoFundMe, I don't know, like, yeah. And why not doing it that way, but this way?
Yeah, fab. So I think that, like you say, there's some real kind of benefit into using kind of blockchain to support this kind of activity, and not just necessarily within charity sector, but actually across that kind of public service, public goods. I think transparency, as you mentioned, obviously that is going to improve trust, particularly if we're talking about public money. You know, being able to see where that is, what it's being used on is great. And actually being able to kind of accept that money, that funding from a much wider source, I think is also really key. If you know, whereas if you're thinking about a local service, often that income generating can be quite restricted to a local area. This potentially opens you up to a global group of people that may be interested in your kind of area. So I think an example of a project that I really like that's kind of doing a bit of all of these things that we've spoken about is a project called Women Rise. So it's kind of founded by an activist called Malia Abidi. She is really kind of passionate about women's rights and access to education for girls. So the project has kind of an overall aim of wanting to open up a school in the metaverse to kind of improve accessibility to education for children. So I think they're kind of utilizing the technology in a really great way. But also, while that's kind of developing, are supporting charities with kind of charitable donations that, again, can all be kind of trace back, that are transparent. So kind of really using the technology in kind of both aspects to benefit people. And I think the other thing I was thinking about with kind of the charity side of things is the community aspect of that again. So actually, when we've got a group of people working towards that common goal, we're much more likely to get there a lot kind of quicker, I think, than if we're, you know, keeping it very local. I've actually got a contact called Jane Curtis, if people are interested in charity sector in any more detail. She's kind of doing a lot of work right now about how charity organisations can actually make that shift into kind of Web3 and really utilising cryptocurrency. So yeah, she's a really great person in the space.
Awesome. That sounds great, actually. So I'm wondering right now, why isn't that like already in the broad mass? Why doesn't every charity or every startup basically that wants to do something within the social impact area jump right onto that technology?
Yeah, I think for me, accessibility and kind of that's the biggest one for me. You know, I have been actively sort of getting into the space, being in the space now for, you know, over 6 months. And it still can feel a bit daunting at times. I think a lot of the, you know, the language we use, the systems can be a bit clunky. That said, there are some great examples out there where projects are really trying to make things as inclusive, as accessible as they can, you know, making kind of interactive resources, that sort of thing. But I think for me, it's that accessibility bit that's probably the biggest barrier at the moment. Because when you start talking about, you know, wallets and exchanges and needing to transfer things and having keys, and I think it can just all get a bit kind of mind-blowing. So that I think is the real biggest thing for me. But I also think some of the other things maybe are kind of projects not having a real purpose, like a real kind of maybe values-led or that sort of social impact-led mission. So we've seen lots of the kind of profile picture projects where, you know, it really is just about that profile picture you get. And that's brilliant. Again, you know, if that's what people are wanting to do. But I think maybe if we were more clear about how this space can contribute to social impact, how charities can get involved, and how we're going to do that, then I think that maybe helps kind of get more people on board. And then I think it's back to my point again around community. So just keeping almost, you know, if we keep shouting about it loud enough, if we all keep talking about it, actually it's going to take that shift and become more commonplace. And I think things like NFTs will just, you know, become something that we use and we have, and we're maybe not even aware of it, kind of in the future. You know, we're not really conscious about the tech. And I think, yeah, when we get to that point, things will probably feel quite a lot different.
Yeah, 100% agree. Basically, what we need to do is make the space easier for people to grasp, actually, because who needs to understand how the internet works, right? That's, I think, a really important nuance here. As long as people need to understand blockchain, right? Not talking about understanding that you need to take care of your private key. I think that's maybe probably something that is here to stay, right? But all the other things, which chain am I on? What exactly is now an NFT? And all that kind of things need to get easier and easier, and really, I would say, plug and play. People should just able to use it for example, for the common good, right? And if that happens, 100%, I think more people and companies or whatever organizations will definitely jump onto that awesome technology.
Yeah, I think so. And I think particularly, you know, I work with the public sector, and actually maybe kind of the technological advancements are a bit slower within the public sector. I think it would be absolutely fair to say. So actually, if we're talking about something that's even newer, you know, we really do need to make sure that kind of people are understanding the tech, that it isn't confusing, and that people are really supported to use it practically as well. Because I think quite often, you know, I find that you maybe use it once and then you don't really go into that thing again for a little while until the next time you need to do it. So I think really supporting people to like actively kind of use all the tech is really important too.
Awesome. Yeah. Again, just can only agree with this. And based on that, I'm a really social person myself, right? At least Wavect, many people won't know that, was a social tech startup in the past, several years ago, quite some time ago. But based on that, I would be super interested now. What would be your 3 key takeaways? What should the audience, or me, for example, what would we be able to do to actually make an impact in the Web3 space and for the common good?
Yeah, I think first step I would say is just starting to have a browse on Twitter, like doing a bit of Googling around social impact NFT projects. You know, there are so many out there. The examples are vast. And like we said earlier, I think if people maybe see some of those examples, it will inspire that thinking. So I think absolutely go on Twitter, find them. People are comfortable with using Discord, jump into people's Discords, you know, have a look through, have a chat. And I think you'll just, yeah, I always kind of get really inspired just from having a bit of a browse. But then I think the next thing is to then actively start sharing those with other people. So I think when you start talking about them more, it's going to support their project. But I think it's also going to help you think through kind of, where do I fit in this? What's the, you know, what's the bit that I can bring? And then I think the final thing I would say then is, if you're kind of still left really inspired after those two and think kind of, yeah, there's definitely more in this for me, actually taking that next step and working through, what is the change I want to see, or what's the difference I think that I can make? And then actually, is there a role for Web3 technology? And that could be kind of NFTs. It could just be charity and the kind of charitable donation side. It could be through kind of metaverse tech. But yeah, really thinking about actually, is there something in this? And then just taking it from there. I think if you've got, you know, passion for this kind of thing, you'll probably kind of be sucked in a bit like I have. But yeah, I think have a research, talk about it lots, and then think about what all of that kind of means for you.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. From my point of view, that's awesome and perfect ending for this incredible podcast episode. Except you have anything to add to that, really, Emma, thank you for being here. It was a pleasure talking with you. And yeah, everyone, thank you for watching.
Thank you very much.